Today, we are going to talk about one of Australia's most popular states, New South Wales.
But the best part of Australia is it has a lot of must-dos. So you want to be on the beach, you want to go dolphin watching, you want to do whale watching, you want to do adventure sports. So there's so many things to do that it turns into this beautiful holiday.
The state is known for three fun things or three food items that I really like to talk about. One is oysters. The second one is the Barramundi, which is such an Australian fish, I would say. The third one is a combination of these two, and seafood is that fish and chips.
When we start talking of the beaches, you are spoiled for choice. I mean, look at the coastline here.
You have taken us north of Sydney. Is there anything south?
One of the best experiences here, Neil, is taking a cruise and going dolphin watching. Not just watching, you can swim with the dolphins actually. If you had to do adventure, then do it here.
What are the Blue Mountains?
So the Blue Mountains are very close to Sydney, about an hour and a half away. They look blue because of the eucalyptus out there. So many people have difficulty choosing, do I want mountains and lakes or do I want beaches? But here you can have both.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. Today, Sunila and I are again going down under. We have spoken about Australia a lot, but today we are going to talk about one of Australia's most popular states, New South Wales. We have spoken about Sydney a lot, one of the most popular cities in Australia, but we decided that for this episode, let's zoom out a bit and talk about New South Wales in general. So we're going to take a deep dive, talk about everything that this state definitely has. So, Sunila, today we are zooming out. We are zooming out from Sydney. We have spoken a lot about the Opera House. We have spoken a lot about the Harbour Bridge and all of those things. But I want to pick your brain on what the surrounding area of Sydney has to offer. So, what do you think is a good point to start if we are doing this discussion?
Neil, I know we've spoken about Sydney a lot, but before we go on to the surrounding areas, let's start with Sydney again. Because Sydney is the gateway. I mean, if you want to take in a flight and come in, not just for New South Wales, for most of the other places in Australia, Sydney is going to be an important place to start. And this was the first place, it's not just us, but even, the first settlers who came in, who claimed Australia to be theirs, came in and they saw the whole state of New South Wales and they called it their own. And to remind them of their motherland, they called it New South Wales. And that's how the whole establishment and settlement started here. And you can see this in the Rocks area of Sydney, which today has historic pubs and it's so much fun. So I just want to touch upon a few things here. We will go into Australia's winter very soon, starting like in May and June, July, August. So it's going to be darker soon. And the Rocks area at evening, like of course a lot of things in Australia do shut down a little earlier than, probably India. But what happens then is when it's dark, the lights come on and it's so pretty. So just to start off with the Rocks area itself, it's so much fun to walk around there, go pub hopping, have a nice dinner and all that. Plus, towards May and June, towards the last 3 weeks of May and June, for 3 weeks, you will see the festival called Vivid Sydney. Vivid Sydney is this beautiful festival where there is a lot of light installation and on famous monuments. So the Opera House will be in different colors and lights and there'll be a story to everything or just in different areas of Sydney and most of it is free. So it's pretty stunning and amazing to do that, right? And one more thing I would suggest is because I went in, I think, around May or June, and I had an opportunity to do that. Like we all know, we go and see the Opera House, we take a Sydney Harbour cruise, we see the, Harbour Bridge. But if by chance you happen to go during a full moon night and take a cruise along the harbour and just watch the Opera House in moonlight, it's something you can't forget. So there's a lot to do in Sydney itself, but this was my 2 bits on starting in Sydney, and now we can, go about talking of the different destinations.
Awesome. I think you're right that, if anyone wants to come into Australia, Sydney is a great starting point. Often people make the mistake that, they try to spend 2 days in Sydney and then just go off to some other city, right? And of course, there's a lot that you can offer. But when I talk about Sydney and surrounds, how should I really get planning when there's so much that you can do, because if you want food, there is something in this state. If you want drink, there is something in this state. If you want adventure, there is something in this state. So, like, how should I get planning, or where can one start?
That's a good point. And if you think of the state, I think a good point to start, since we are at Sydney, is to think whether you want to go down south from Sydney or you want to go up north from Sydney.
Yeah.
And or are you just doing a round trip from Sydney to Sydney, and then you can go north first, come back, go south first, and come back. Probably going into Australia, you may combine it with the other states. So again, whether you're going south or you're going north will depend on that. And there are two beautiful drives which kind of bring all of this in together. So I think we should mention that here. So when you take the Grand Pacific Drive, which goes south from Sydney, you're going to Wollongong, Jervis Bay and below. And when you do the legendary Pacific Coast Drive, then you're going north towards Byron Bay. So I think and then, you can do it in a day. You can take a week and stop at different points along the way. And that's how we can look at it. So I think the best part of this state is that whatever you think of for a holiday, typically we think of must-sees and must-dos, right? And must-sees tend to be monuments. But the best part of Australia is it has a lot of must-dos. So
Yeah.
you want to be on the beach, you want to go dolphin watching, you want to do whale watching, you want to do adventure sports. So there's so many things to do that it turns into this beautiful holiday. So you think of it, you think of snow, you can do it in the
Snow
state.
in Australia.
Skiing in Australia
Where?
is possible. Well, we've mentioned it before in Victoria and Mount Buller, but in New South Wales, you have the Snowy Mountains. And Thredbo and Perisher are two ski resorts that you just have to go if you really love skiing. And, I think Perisher is probably the largest ski terrain in all of the southern hemisphere. So that should tell you how much snow they get.
Australia is
And
quite
you're not too
lucky
far.
like that. It has
Yeah.
the largest, biggest anything in the
Yes.
southern hemisphere, right?
And when you're going towards Canberra from Sydney, you can always do the Snowy Mountains and
Yeah.
have a great time skiing.
And
out
then I
there.
guess the season for this could be towards the winter. That is the Australian winter, which
Yeah.
is May, June, July,
Yeah, June,
August.
July, August. July,
something
August
like that,
probably.
right? Okay, so we have the sea, we have the snow, right? And you've mentioned we have the mountains also. But when you were talking about Byron Bay, you were talking about all of these drives. Something that really came to my mind, and whenever I'm going on a long drive, I kind of get into the mood for it, is that the state is known for three fun things or three food items that I really like to talk about. One is oysters. The second one is the barramundi, which is such an Australian fish, I would say. And the third one is a combination of these two, and seafood is that fish and chips, right? So if you're driving, and it's very easy to self-drive in Australia, right, with an international Indian license, you can stop anywhere. You can probably stop at an oyster farm and be like, okay, like I have fresh oysters out here. You can enjoy a barramundi in the Australian way, which is the fish and chips, or you can use it, enjoy it in like a different Asian or Thai preparation. So that's also something that is pretty cool. What else is there?
Neil, we mentioned Byron Bay, and Byron Bay has this beautiful lighthouse, which is known to be the brightest lighthouse along the coast. So, we spoke about the mountains, we spoke about the snow and the ski. When we start talking of the beaches, you are spoiled for choice. I mean, look at the coastline here. And let's start at the north. So when you start at the north coast, you have Byron Bay and Coffs Harbour. Byron Bay, of course, is this beautiful place where, you can do all kinds of water sports that you dream of, and the lighthouse out there. Close to Coffs Harbour is a very unique and fun Aussie thing that you see now everywhere along the state. I think they got obsessed with creating these big installations. So you have this big banana out there.
Just a banana.
A big, huge banana that is installed out there. It's called the Big Banana. I think the way it started off was to promote the banana farms out there. So to take a stop. And you can do that in a lot of places also, is fruit picking. So, that's also another thing to do.
It's like an experience.
It's like an
right?
experience. You go into the farm, you can go in and, depending on the season, you have different fruits that you can pick and eat and all of that. So it's a lot of fun. So yes, at Coffs Harbour, you have the Big Banana, and then you have the lighthouse at Byron Bay, and just so many things to do there. So you could actually just drive from Sydney or stay there for longer and then proceed to your next destination.
I think that's definitely a good idea. I remember when I was at university in Australia, they used to talk about Byron Bay as like this thing that is slowly getting popular because people visit the cafes out there or the brunch places out there in the hope that they'll either see a Liam Hemsworth or a Chris
Chris
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth is
Yeah,
supposed to
because
be surfing out
yeah,
there
they are
quite a lot.
they
Yeah.
are from that area, right?
Yeah.
So that's
They
why
probably see a
yeah.
dolphin or whale watching. I think the chances of seeing whales are more out
Than
there than
seeing the
probably
Hemsworth
Chris
brothers.
Hemsworth. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can still go
And
the
try.
Hemsworth watching or whale watching in Byron Bay, as I would call it. Okay, so you have taken us north of Sydney. Is there anything south?
There are a lot. In fact, even before you come to Sydney, you will stop in Port Stephens along the coast. And this is one of my favorite places because I remember when I went there first and we did paragliding and parasailing out there
Yeah.
in Port Stephens. So that's one of the best things to do. And the sand dunes here were unbelievable. And when I tell you unbelievable, the Stockton sand dunes here, they're supposed to be the largest moving sand dunes on earth. Like everything
yeah?
is so huge and so large
Yeah.
out here, right? And one of the best experiences here, Neil, is taking a cruise and going dolphin watching. Not just watching, you can swim with the dolphins out here.
Oh, that's amazing.
And these cruises have those nets, so you could lie in the nets if you want, and then the dolphins just come to you and enjoy that. Or go sandboarding. So it's a great place with families, especially families, or friends or whatever. But you have those little like toboggans, and you just do sandboarding. It's just so much fun. So ATV rides, a lot of active adventure can be done along this coast. Close to that is also Lake Macquarie, which is Australia's largest saltwater lake. And like we've heard of lakes turning pink, this is also a lake that can turn pink depending on the season and after the rain and the if there are enough algae, it actually turns pink as well. So that's something to do here. When we go south, we come to some really interesting places. So Wollongong is one. Again, you can go skydiving here. And in Wollongong is a part of the Grand Pacific Drive is the Sea Cliff Bridge. It's about some 665 meters or something. And it's amazing because it just is all along the coast all the way. So you can drive on it, or you can, like after driving, you park, you have these lookout points which are stunning. And then you actually go and walk on it a little bit, take in the views, take your photographs, just so much fun out there. So you can do a lot of things all along the coast in New South Wales. And depending on when you're going or where you want to go, you should actually plan your itinerary like that.
Okay, so I would like to pick up on one of the points that you mentioned, that you can swim with the dolphins, and many people often have this misconception that the temperature of the water all across Australia, whether it's in the north, south, east, west, will be the same, but that's not the case. When you're in New South Wales and you're on this coast, the temperature is much warmer and you can actually swim in. Like in other parts of Australia where there are Antarctic waters and all, you probably can't do that, right? So that is an activity that I would highly recommend, and it is definitely an experience. And often people think about the safety bit of it, but I think Australia is one place where people are certified to a different level. And
If you had to do adventure, then do it here.
Yeah, do it here.
Neil, speaking of swimming, I remember you mentioning it that in Sydney you have something really unique, right? For swims, like people go out in summers, ocean pools,
The
or
ocean
something.
pools and the
So,
hot pools, right?
Yeah.
So I think so everyone talks about Bondi,
Right.
and Bondi is one beach,
Yeah.
right? But Sydney has multiple beaches, and I think how the city was planned out was that if we just have beaches all across, then it kind of is boring, right? So they decided that, okay, we'll have a beach. Then after that, we'll construct the promenade in such a way where it is like a pool where, if you're getting into a pool, you have those steel rods that take you in.
Yeah.
So instead of you getting into a pool, you're actually going into the sea. So there are like rectangular things that are done. Then you go to the next beach. So it is they often call it the Bondi to Coogee walk.
Right.
And that walk is a rather long walk, but when you take that walk, you have different options that you can do. You can be like on a sandy beach, or you can just be by the sea, but you can jump into the sea and think that it's actually a pool. Along with that, there are all those natural hot pools, and one of the famous ones is the figure 8 pools very close to Sydney. So that is also something you can definitely do, but for that you have to check the weather. You have to see how easy or difficult it is to go to the natural pool, and you'll see a lot of these in New South Wales. Yeah. So okay, so we've done north of Sydney, we've done south of Sydney. where to go next? What's on your list?
Neil, when we speak of Australia, we have to mention wine. And when we talk of wine in New South Wales, then one of the best wine growing regions is Hunter Valley.
And one of the oldest too.
Yes,
Yeah.
one of the oldest wine. In fact, I think this is where wine production in Australia started, and they got
Yeah.
the grapes from France and other places, and they planted it here, and that's how wine started. Wine production started, and with the weather being so amazing, you have amazing wine out here. And I think if you're going for a romantic break or if you're going for a honeymoon, one of the best things to do would be to be in a hot air balloon and float over the vineyards.
Yeah.
So, you have to get up early, but then look at the view, and it's the best time to be there and to do that. So, definitely doing that would be great. You can even stay in a vineyard. You can choose to stay in a hotel which has a vineyard next to it. And of course, if you're with families also, or even otherwise for everyone, even I enjoyed it, was the Hunter Valley Gardens. They're really cute. They have different sections. So you have the Japanese garden. One of my favorite was actually Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
And they have this mad tea hatters party going on. So you have
Wow.
this table laid out with the whole characters from that the tea party, and you can go in there and just enjoy. So it was a beautiful place. Definitely something you should check.
I'm glad you mentioned the wine region, because I'd like to set it straight, or at least clarify for many of our listeners what a wine tasting actually is like. And here I would recommend that you could go to just one of the wineries for a wine tasting, or how the entire valley is spread out. You have many different vineyards that you can go to, right? So there are many tours that happen which are day tours, and I recommend those over like you wanting to drive, because if you're driving you cannot drink the wine, right? So how it tends to work is, of course, that you go to different vineyards and try out their different wines, or you can go to one vineyard and do like a lunch with a pairing of a wine, right? And both experiences are very different, and they are not the same, because what wine goes well with what food is what this vineyard knows, and then that the food is great, and then the wine that you get is definitely great. And whenever you're going for a wine tasting like this, remember to get one or two bottles, because you probably won't find those here in India, or you might find them at 3 times the price of what you will probably get there. So I would definitely kind of recommend that. And you mentioned hot air ballooning, right? That is an activity that is great to be to complement a great day of wine tasting, where you mentioned you can go to the gardens and enjoy a tea party sort of things. I have seen different vineyards having like a connected path where you can bike from one vineyard to another, and then you can certainly do that. Not that I've done it, but like I know a few friends who have definitely done it. So if you're going for a wine tasting, definitely also try to do a lunch out there.
I think I like what you said. I would probably do both the experiences.
Yeah.
Where you go in for one lunch, because you learn wine pairing also, and which is good, because when you travel or you go anywhere else, or just at home when you have a meal, then you know which wine goes with which kind of food, and that
Yeah.
kind of it just makes the experience better. And the second is, when you try 2-3 different vineyards, then you know what you like, which
Correct.
is to your taste, and then you can buy that. Like, instead of going to just one, you can go in and do that in different places too.
Definitely. So, we spoke of the wine. I had another thing on my list, and I wanted to ask you what they are. What are the Blue Mountains?
So the Blue Mountains are very close to Sydney, about an hour and a half away, and they look blue because of the eucalyptus out there. So they say that because there's so much eucalyptus, that the aroma is in the air, and that's kind of, from a distance, they don't look dark green or black or whatever, like they look a little blue in color, and that's how they are called the Blue Mountains. They also have one of the oldest cave systems in the world. So the Genuine caves are your stalactites, stalagmites, you can go in and see all of that. It also has one of the steepest railways. So Scenic word, the railway, you can take it up and go up there, and it's a beautiful place for hiking and walking. So, we talked about it before, but when you want to combine a holiday, and often many people have difficulty choosing, do I want mountains and lakes or do I want beaches? But here you can have both. So you
Yeah.
could be in Sydney, you could be on the coast, and we spoke about all those places on the coast, and also you have your beach fix out there. And then if you want to go hiking, walking, or just enjoy some cool air, like maybe it's summer and you want to just enjoy some cool air, head to the mountains and spend some time there. So, it's a good
I
combination.
guess over the course of the last 20 minutes, what you have done is you have really given me and everyone else reasons to why just Sydney and surrounds can be, I will not call it a weekend getaway from India, but a good holiday where that's your first trip to Australia and you could probably, or your second trip to Australia and you can probably do it. And I'm just going to list them down. One is you spoke about the wine tasting. Second is you can go north or south of Sydney and you can do
The whole
the
coast.
the whole coastal drive. Or if you have the time, do both. You can go to the Blue Mountains. You can enjoy lush landscapes, which, of course, that's how they derive the name. Also, you can enjoy the food all across Sydney, and I spoke about not only the breakfast but also the seafood that you can definitely do.
And you can also go swimming with the dolphins or whale watching.
Oh yeah, exactly. You can go into the sea and you can go
Yeah.
skiing also, right?
Yes.
I wanted to bring one point which connects to the first thing that you discussed. Like, of course, New South Wales or Sydney was the place where the first people landed. But I remember in our discussions, you told me that Australian states are named in two distinct
Yes.
ways. And there's a unique story behind it. So tell us that story.
So, Neil, actually, when you start looking at all of Australia, and it just struck me that, wow, it's either named according to the geography or the region, or it's named according to the people who came here. And to lay claim to a state, you just call it your name and then it becomes yours. So when Captain James Cook came and he saw Australia on the east coast, he was sailing and he started naming Byron Bay again, for in honor of Lord Byron. Then New South Wales. So, and then you have, if you look at the other states, so let's start with the states. You have New South Wales, which again reminds you of of UK. You have Queensland.
Yeah.
Queensland. And then you have Victoria.
Yeah.
So all three, and actually all of this was part of New South Wales earlier. And then it broke off and then New South Wales became New South Wales and the other states, they all got their independence and became their own states. And then if you look at the other regions, you have Western Australia, Northern Territory and South Australia. So it's pretty clear where they stand in the map of Australia, So either it's region based or it's named according to, well, just to remind you of the UK, I guess.
Austin, I'm glad I brought this up because this is something super know the unknown-esque, like, the podcast that I used to do. Anything else we've missed out before we end the episode?
I'm sure there are more. Like, I just remembered we didn't talk about the Kiama blowhole, which is also a natural phenomenon that you can see on the way when you drive the Grand Pacific Drive. Blue Mountains has three sisters, which are the three mountains that are named as that. And then there is the outback in New South Wales as well. So you can go and enjoy the outback too if you want. There are so many other things, but I think for today we have enough reason to build a holiday of New South Wales, starting in Sydney, maybe combining Port Stephens and Hunter Valley together, or going down into Jervis Bay, Hyams Beach, Wollongong, and coming back to Sydney again. So you can easily go for a week to 10 days holiday in Sydney and the surrounds.
Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us all of this insight. Listeners, if you like this, of course, we have the podcast Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. But Sunila writes in multiple newspapers. I write in multiple newspapers. We have the weekly newsletter. The Veena World website has more blogs and videos and podcasts like this. So tune in and enjoy all of the content that we have at Veena World on the Veena World website or wherever you like listening to your podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this was New South Wales for you. Thank you.